This 90-year-old lace is just old fabric, Florence. Jennifer's voice carried across my kitchen like a sharp blade. Nobody displays yellow doilies anymore. It's time to accept that some things outlive their usefulness. I sat at my kitchen table folding delicate lace pieces, the same table where I'd preserved these family treasures for 42 years. My old recipe book lay nearby, filled with notes about proper textile care and family history preservation methods. Jennifer picked up my grandmother's lace runner dismissively, the intricate handmade patterns catching morning light. Look at these stains and discoloration. This belongs in a donation bag, not displayed like precious artwork. That lace was made by my great-grandmother in 1934, I said quietly, continuing to fold each piece with the reverence it deserved. After decades of careful preservation. Exactly my point, Jennifer replied impatiently. 90-year-old fabric from the Depression era, probably made from whatever scraps were available during hard times. My son Andrew sat reading his tablet, saying nothing to defend his mother. The same kitchen where I'd taught him the importance of family history and respecting handmade artistry. Jennifer continued examining my lace collection, like evidence in a hygiene case. We could replace all this with modern table decorations, something washable and practical that doesn't require museum-level care. Museum-level care, as if preserving beautiful things required unreasonable effort, as if family heritage was burden rather than privilege. Andrew finally looked up, but not in my defense. Maybe Mom could keep just one piece for sentiment, donate the rest to someone who'd actually appreciate vintage items. Actually appreciate, as if 42 years of careful stewardship didn't constitute appreciation, as if love could be measured in practical utility alone. Silence isn't surrender, it's strength, gathering its breath. I'm Florence. I'm 75 years old. I live in Millbrook, Illinois. This lace collection has been my responsibility since my grandmother passed in 1982. I've preserved every piece, with museum-quality care, for 4 decades. Today, my daughter-in-law called my family heirlooms, just old fabric that outlived usefulness, while I sat folding 90 years of family artistry in the kitchen where respect for beautiful things had always been taught. But what Jennifer doesn't know is this. My great-grandmother didn't just create lace. She wove family secret into every delicate thread. That will change everything about Jennifer's assumptions. If you've ever felt overlooked in your own home, you'll understand why this moment stayed with me. This house on Maple Street has sheltered my lace collection for 42 years of marriage and 3 years of widowhood. Every piece displayed with pride and proper preservation in rooms filled with respect for handmade beauty. The morning sun filtered through my parlor windows, illuminating display cases where my great-grandmother's lace rests in acid-free storage, protected from light damage and environmental threats that could destroy decades of family artistry. I can hear the whisper of delicate fabric settling into archival boxes, the same sound that welcomed every birthday celebration, every holiday gathering, where family history was shared and treasured. My recipe book contains more than cooking instruction. It holds detailed notes about textile preservation, humidity control methods, storage requirements for different fabric types, knowledge accumulated over decades of careful stewardship. The kitchen still smells like lavender from sachets I used to protect stored linens, like memories layered over years of preservation efforts, each scent a reminder of responsibility accepted and faithfully maintained. Some truths arrive quietly but change everything. After Harold died 3 years ago, this lace collection became even more precious, a tangible connection to family tradition that death couldn't break, a bridge between generations of women who understood the value of beautiful things. Jennifer sees only outdated decoration taking up valuable display space. She doesn't understand that some objects hold more than aesthetic value. They hold family documentation woven into every stitch. She wants me to modernize everything, replace handmade heritage with practical efficiency. That fits her vision of streamlined living without sentimental complication or preservation responsibilities. Andrew inherited his father's gentle nature, but not Harold's reverence for craftsmanship and legacy. He sees potential storage issues where his father saw heritage worth protecting. The suggestions started carefully, like loose threads in precious fabric. Jennifer would comment on my excessive attachment to outdated household decorations during her weekly visits. All these display cases must be exhausting to maintain. Maybe it's time to simplify your housekeeping responsibilities. Focus on easier hobbies. She'd point out practical concern. These antique textiles attract dust and allergen. Wouldn't modern decoration be healthier for someone your age and situation? My age and situation, 75 years old, and suddenly incompetent to care for things I'd maintained expertly for over 4 decades. Machine washable would be better, she'd suggest. No more hand cleaning or special storage requirement. Much easier on aging hands and tired eyes. Aging hands and tired eyes. That had preserved this collection successfully through countless seasons without a single piece lost to carelessness or neglect. Dignity whispers what anger cannot. The real campaign began when she started bringing home decoration magazines featuring modern display ideas. Look at these beautiful, contemporary arrangements, so much more practical than vintage collection. She'd flip through pages enthusiastically, showing me simplified decorating designed for busy lifestyles that didn't include handmade lace or formal preservation methods. We could redecorate this whole house, she'd continue. Make it more functional, less cluttered with old things that require constant attention and specialized care. Less cluttered with old things, as if my great-grandmother's artistry was clutter rather than treasure, as if beauty required justification beyond its own existence. Andrew nodded along with her suggestion, not from enthusiasm, but from exhaustion, with topics that created tension. During every family gathering, a home remembers the hands that built it. Jennifer began questioning my preservation method. Do you really need such elaborate storage systems? Wouldn't simple closets be more practical for someone living alone? Simple closet, instead of museum-quality preservation equipment that protected 90 years of irreplaceable family artistry from environmental damage and natural deterioration. She suggested I donate my excess textile. There are historical societies that would appreciate these vintage items for educational purposes, missing the point entirely that these weren't museum pieces, they were family heritage with personal significance that couldn't be replaced. Summer brought longer preservation sessions and more aggressive suggestions about decluttering my collections. Jennifer's visits became focused on eliminating what she called unnecessary household accumulation. She'd arrive with storage catalogs and donation forms. Today we tackle the lace situation, figure out what pieces have actual historical value and what should finally go. Actual historical value, as if she could determine which family memories deserved preservation, which pieces of heritage mattered enough to keep. This runner especially takes up enormous display space. When do you ever use such formal table covering for everyday meals? Everyday meals, missing the entire concept that some object transcended utility, that beauty deserved preservation, regardless of frequency of use. She measured my display cases, like someone planning renovation. All this space could hold more practical storage, things you actually need for modern living. Modern living, as if preserving family history had no place in contemporary households, as if heritage was luxury rather than responsibility. Some objects hold memories, not value. I started paying closer attention to Jennifer's real motivation behind this anti-lace campaign. She seemed determined to eliminate anything she couldn't understand through modern efficiency standards. My old recipe book contained family information Jennifer had never bothered reading, financial details and property records, important dates that might surprise someone who assumed everything old was worthless, including documentation of my great-grandmother, special recognition and awards that would change assumptions about her simple needlework and its true significance. The lace collection held secrets beyond its obvious beauty, patterns that document more than decorative design, stitches that preserved family information in ways only trained eyes could recognize and interpret. I wasn't angry anymore. I was awake. Jennifer thought she understood my sentimental attachment to outdated household goods that served no practical purpose. In her vision of efficient modern living, she had no idea what this collection actually contained beyond handmade decoration, no understanding of the careful documentation my great-grandmother had created through needle and thread. The crisis came on a humid August morning. Jennifer arrived with Andrew and printed estimates from textile recycling companies for proper disposal of damaged vintage fabrics, proper disposal as if 90 years of family artistry was waste requiring professional elimination services rather than heritage, deserving continued preservation. Mom, we've been discussing your living situation, Andrew said, his voice gentle but firm. This house has too many fragile collections for someone your age managing alone. Fragile collection, as if my 75 years had suddenly made me destructive. Despite maintaining these pieces successfully for decades, without major incident, these senior communities have beautiful common areas, Jennifer added. Professional display cases you wouldn't need to maintain. All these delicate textiles that require constant monitoring. Professional display cases in anonymous facilities where my family heritage would become generic decoration for strangers who'd never know. The stories woven into every thread. What about my great-grandmother's lace? I asked. The family history these pieces represent, the generations of care they've received? We could select one special piece, Andrew said. Maybe the best condition runner for your new apartment. Everything else could benefit. Museums or historical societies. One special 90 years of family tradition reduced to single decoration. That would sit lonely, without its complete collection, without the context that gave it meaning. The storage requirements alone are impractical, Jennifer continued. These old textiles need climate-controlled environment, professional cleaning method, too much responsibility for someone your age. Stories like this remind us that clarity heals more than confrontation. Too much responsibility, as if caring for beautiful things was burden rather than honor, as if preserving family heritage was inconvenience rather than privilege. I've never found it burdensome, I protested. This collection connects me to my great-grandmother, to family tradition that define who we are. But it's not practical anymore, Jennifer replied. Modern families need simpler approaches to household management, less formal preservation of outdated items. Modern families, as if tradition had expiration dates, as if beauty became irrelevant when life got complicated, as if heritage couldn't coexist with practical living. That night I sat alone in my parlor, surrounded by display cases filled with my great-grandmother's artistry, running my fingers over patterns that held more secrets than Jennifer could imagine. Tomorrow I would show them what they'd overlooked in their rush to modernize what was actually woven into seemingly simple lace. The next morning brought Jennifer's return with professional appraisers to assess the collection's market value for insurance or donation purposes. Professional appraisers who would evaluate 90 years of family artistry in terms of monetary worth rather than emotional significance, missing the real treasure hidden in delicate pattern. We'll start with the oldest pieces, she announced. Get baseline valuation for the entire collection, then determine what's worth keeping versus donating. That's when I decided the time had come to reveal what Jennifer had completely overlooked in her rush to eliminate worthless family clutter. Calm truth cuts deeper than loud accusation. Before anyone appraises anything, I said, I need to show you something about this lace that might change your perspective entirely. I opened my most treasured display case and removed my great-grandmother's prize-winning table runner, the piece Jennifer had dismissed as just old fabric without real value. Look more closely at these specific patterns, I said, pointing to sections where subtle variation created meaning beyond decorative design. My great-grandmother didn't just make random lace, she documented our family in every stitch. Jennifer examined the piece more carefully than ever before. What do you mean? Documented our family? I showed her how certain pattern repetition represented birth dates, how flower motifs marked important anniversaries, how border design contained initials and marriage information woven into seemingly decorative elements. Some distances heal more than apology, but the lace held even more secret. Sewn into specific corners were tiny pockets containing waterproof packets my great-grandmother had hidden for future generations to discover and preserve. She knew this collection would be treasured, I continued, would be passed down and carefully maintained. She used it as a safe hiding place for important family documents. Inside the hidden pockets lay certificates and papers that changed everything about our families, financial circumstances, and legal standing. Property deeds showing substantial land ownership dating back 5 generations, investments that had compounded far beyond original value, legal documents proving mineral rights, and water access privileges, worth substantial money. Just old fabric, I said quietly. That preserved our family's most valuable assets for nearly a century. Andrew arrived as I was showing the final document, birth certificates, and marriage licenses that proved our family's legal claim to properties Jennifer had never known existed. "This is all authentic?" he asked, examining paper. That changed everything about his inheritance and family wealth. Every document verified, every claim documented, every piece of lace, a preservation system, I replied. Your great-great-grandmother understood the importance of hidden protection for future generations. The professional appraisers found more than fabric value. The collection's true worth lay in its dual purpose as beauty and family-safe deposit system. This wasn't about decoration or household efficiency. This was about generational wealth preservation by a woman who understood that beautiful things are protected and treasured. The silence that followed felt different from previous family discussion, this time weighted with respect rather than dismissal, with amazement rather than assumptions about worthless collection. Jennifer spoke first, her voice uncertain. "Florence, I had no idea about any of this hidden documentation or the collection's actual significance. My great-grandmother never advertised," I replied gently. She believed valuable things should be protected quietly, where they'd be safe, but accessible to family who understood their importance. Andrew examined the document, understanding finally dawning about his great-great-grandmother's wisdom in combining beauty with practical asset protection for future generations. "She hid our inheritance in the lace?" he asked, looking at the collection with completely new appreciation for its sophisticated purpose. "She knew beautiful things are preserved and protected," I said, "that people maintain what they love more carefully than what they simply store." We spent the next hour talking honestly about heritage preservation methods and the difference between sentimental attachment and actual family asset management systems. Jennifer apologized for dismissing the lace as worthless fabric, for assuming my great-grandmother had been simple needleworker without valuable possessions or sophisticated planning ability. "I can see now how brilliant this was," she said, "not just as art, but as family protection. Your great-grandmother was far ahead of her time. Some objects hold memories, not value." We talked about going forward with new understanding, about examining collections before making judgments, about respecting preservation systems that represent generational wisdom rather than simple accumulation. "I want to learn about the pattern codes," Jennifer said. "Would you teach me how to read the family information your great-grandmother documented?" "And I want to protect this," Andrew added. "Upgrade the preservation system for future generations to understand and maintain properly." The lace collection returned to its place of honor in my parlor, no longer hiding secret, but protecting them openly for family members who finally understood its sophisticated dual purpose. Over the following months, our relationships grew stronger, like perfectly woven fabric. Jennifer started visiting to learn, rather than to organize, about textile preservation and family documentation methods. Christmas that year felt like true celebration. Jennifer brought me professional archival supplies for maintaining the document and upgrading the preservation system. Mitchell's gift was a detailed magnifying system for examining pattern codes more clearly and teaching the grandchildren about their heritage. If this story touched something familiar, may your next chapter be softer than the last. Your family collections matter, regardless of others' assessments. Your responsibility to maintain heritage should be honored, not questioned. Your knowledge of family preservation method deserves respect and understanding. Real love honors different approaches to protecting what matters. Real care recognizes hidden value in seemingly simple object. Real protection preserves wisdom rather than eliminating sophisticated systems. Age brings understanding of preservation responsibilities that younger generation may not recognize immediately, but will appreciate eventually when they inherit the results of careful stewardship. Sometimes the most valuable inheritances are hidden in plain sight, woven into beautiful things by hands that understood. Love takes many forms, including preparation for futures we may never see.